Welcome back, folks. I'm Jon Najarian. Pete, my brother, will be joining me shortly on today's Rebel's Edge to break down what's going on with Goldman Sachs and their outlook for the recession, as well as fantastic futures, stocks, and a little sports. All of that coming your way in about 15 seconds. Bang!
You got a cast of characters behind you, I can tell you that.
Oh yeah. Well, it's about 1,000 lawyers here in Greenbriar, Pete. They get continuing legal education, CLE credits, for attending this conference that I'm at. So, yeah, it's an interesting crew. And as I said yesterday, over 750 rooms here at the Greenbriar. So this is a big old place. It looks like the White House.
It's beautiful.
And as discussed, they have a bunker downstairs next to the casino, which is apropos given what our Congress does with our money. But let's talk, Pete, about macro.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, indeed, as I said in the cold open, that it is Goldman Sachs trading down their expectations for a recession. They say now it's only 30%. It's not 50 or 60 anymore. It's down to 30%. Really? So they got you out at the bottom, and now they're taking the likelihood of a recession down as we rally to new highs. Okay. Okay.
Well, I'll go back even to yesterday, John. We had the CPI, and then all of a sudden today we get the PPI, and we're starting to kind of go through all these things. And I'll tell you what, the numbers were probably much better than most expected, especially today with the PPI, lower than what was expected for sure. So when will Powell cut? That's the big question, right? And I know that the president doesn't want him just to cut. He wants him to hack it down because he wants a big chunky cut. But I don't know. I think that he's going to stand his ground, John. I'm not saying that's the right thing, but it just seems like Powell is just not ready. And I don't know what will make him ready because he's gotten all the data. They say they're going off the data. They've gotten all the data that they've gotten. You would think that there's maybe room for a quarter, but at some point, I think we'll see it. I just don't know when.
Well, as Trump said here, Pete, on my little app, it says, Trump calls Fed Chair Powell a numbskull.
He is not a numbskull, by the way.
I like the call.
It's a good call, but it's not accurate.
All right, let's talk about fantastic futures. And I'll say there are definitely people that are betting that the numbskull is going to cut. And that when the numbskull cuts, that'll make gold more precious to people that own it. And so it's moving up by about 2.5% today, Pete, GLD.
Yeah, gold getting up above 3,400 once again. It's pretty interesting. I'll hit on this volatility also, John, because even on a day like this where starting out the day was not looking so great, right? Because of the issues with Boeing, and we'll get into that. But there certainly was a lot of pressure on the Dow, down nearly 300 points. The NASDAQ was following along with the S&P. And so we had a pretty good pop in that volatility index. The second that started to turn, that volatility started getting pressed down a little bit more. It's back under the 18 level. It's back in the 17s. Interesting. It's still a fairly tight, when you really look at it, John, call it 1750 to maybe 1850. It's pretty tight. And then if you look back and you look at the 52-week, you're looking at 12s all the way up to 60. Well, we're a heck of a lot closer to the 12s right now. So I like what we're seeing out of the volatility index right now.
Yeah, well, I do too, Pete. I think it's accurately showing us the positivity in the market. Positivity, just like physicality.
Physicality.
I know how much you like that term.
Oh, yeah, that's a great made-up word.
Let's remind folks, Pete, that he will be on a webinar tonight that you can join for free, folks. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern time tonight. And as you know, when we do these free webinars, you have to register to attend, but then we even record it and send it out to your email address that you registered with. So you got all the more reason that in case something comes up, or if you know you can't attend at 4 o'clock, you're going to get a copy of it. And Pete and Jeff Garbaz, our short squeeze expert, along with Mark Lepresti, are going to be dominating that tonight, and we look forward to it. Again, it's 4 p.m. Eastern Time, marketrebellion.com/register. All right, Pete. So if Goldman says we're going to see less of a chance of recession, maybe that's one of the things that's helping some of these NASDAQ stocks like Oracle is certainly helping itself, Pete, because shares of the IT giant posting some pretty special earnings per share as well as revenue. I mean, both were big beats. And I think when you're seeing that, along with the optimism that Goldman is grudgingly putting out there, those are things that are helping move the market from that deeply negative that you spoke of, Pete, to now moving up into positive territory.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you almost forget about the fact that Oracle does report so late relative to, where you might expect them to be putting out with their earnings. But they did not disappoint at all, John. When you've got revenue up 11% year over year, beating the estimates, you also beat the earnings side of things. You put up $1.70. We're looking for $1.64. Everywhere you look in this particular earnings is absolutely magnificent. They raised their full year outlook. That seems like a pretty good thing. Cloud revenues up 27% year over year. It's 1/3 of all the revenue that Oracle brings in. Oh, and by the way, they said 27% this past quarter, but you know what? They're also looking at that to jump up as much as 70%. So everywhere you look, and new 52-week highs hit today over 200. It was 201.99. Cloud sales, I look across at everything, John. This is one heck of a report. And I'll tell you, Oracle is crushing it. So I'm not so sure. And you were talking about this whole thing about the tariffs and everything else. Whatever's out there, Oracle was able to step right over it and absolutely slam it.
Yeah, well, it's a special report. And they deserve the accolades they're getting and the price appreciation that the shareholders are getting.
Yep.
All right. Now, this is, of course, sad to report that there were 242 souls on that Air India flight, Pete, that crashed just after takeoff. I was watching the video of it, Pete, and you and I both, you more than I think you actually got your private pilot's license. I just put in like 45 hours and never got the license because I didn't think I was skilled enough if I didn't do it all the time. So I didn't want to get my license. It was fun when I'm doing it, but and I'm not saying I'm not blaming the pilots. I'm not blaming the plane yet. But it looked to me, Pete, like a situation where maybe either something shifted in the luggage compartment down below, because to see a plane like that go up, it's a Dreamliner. This is the first ever crash of a Dreamliner. And to see it going up and then it's just struggling to gain altitude, it looked like. And then it's just coming down and, big crash. And we don't know if there were any survivors. But that's pretty negative for Boeing, even though we don't know that it was a Boeing issue. Again, this is the first Dreamliner to ever go down in a fatal crash.
And I think the biggest problem that Boeing has to face is they've had issues in the past. And I think that's probably why we were seeing the reaction. Although, given the reaction, John, and seeing where the stock is, I don't think that it's that negative in terms of the stock itself. I mean, down 5%, that's something, but it's not everything. I mean, you'd almost expect if people really thought that this was more of a Boeing issue, I would think that would be down even more than just 4 or 5%. And actually, it even recovered a little bit. It was only down 3% a little while ago. But interesting to see how this whole thing is unfolding. It's a terrible thing. We all know that. From a stock perspective, which is what we're giving, 140 to 216. That's where we are since April on a big run that this stock has had. And now it's still kind of hanging around somewhere near 200. So From a stock-only perspective, it seems like they are navigating pretty well through this. Now, obviously, we're going to have to wait a while to get all the information of what really happened. So once we get that, we'll find out a lot more. And I think, unfortunately, the reputation of Boeing from the past, John, is part of the problem, but apparently not that big of a problem, at least for the stock right now.
Yeah. And again, folks, if you've seen the video, there was no obvious problem except that it couldn't gain altitude. There were not, the engines weren't on fire. It didn't appear that the ailerons or any of the flaps were not working. It just seemed like it couldn't gain altitude. Yeah. And that was what ultimately brought it down, I guess, in Ahmedabad, I think is how they pronounce that part of the world. All right, Pete, let's switch gears from that sad story over to a story for Chime. This is basically a banking company in the fintech sector, and obviously Chime coming out with an IPO at about 27 bucks a share. That's CHYM is going to be the symbol when it's trading here now. They got an $11.6 billion valuation based on this IPO, Pete, but it was easily more than double that in the not too distant past. So they had to take a much lower valuation to finally get this thing out. And a lot of other companies have really hit the ball out of the park, including in the fintech space, like eToro and some of these, or Circle. So why this one couldn't get the valuation, that's one of the reasons we're reporting it here.
Yeah, I found it pretty interesting as well, John. I mean, some of the delays, the valuation levels, like you were talking about, where they were and where they are now. I think it's $11.6 billion valuation for the company at 27 bucks. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. I think my takeaway, and you know where I'm going already, though, is we are seeing IPOs. We are seeing stocks being brought to the public. And I think when you start seeing that, that really brings you right to the investment banking side of things, the Goldman Sachs, the Morgan Stanleys, the, Citi, Bank of America, you name it. They all are doing well in that particular category. And I think that is something that not just buoying these companies, but leading these companies, I think, to the upside as much as they have. And we've seen a pretty good recovery since the lows in April of the financials and the ripping move to the upside that we've seen since then. JP Morgan as well. I forgot that one. So there's plenty out there, John, and there are a lot more items going out there, whether or not they're acquisitions or on this side of things where they're IPO. There is a lot going on, and I think the investment banking community is going to do very, very well in the next set of earnings also. Just because we keep seeing this over and over, it seems like at least a couple of weeks, and it's making it pretty interesting, and I think that's really, really going to be where you'd want to be, is in those investment banks right now.
Yeah, well, that eToro move was pretty spectacular, Pete. Obviously, competitors like Robinhood, which has been out there for a long time, folks. That's not a new IPO, but a lot of those companies really doing well right now. All right, let's talk about GameStop, a company that's not doing well, because yesterday Pete and I talked about it, and they had, I think, a 6% decline in sales, Pete, versus the same period a year ago. Then they said, hey, we're going to raise a bunch of money, almost $2 billion or something like that. Now, if somebody came to you, Pete, and said, hey, I want to borrow $2 billion, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. That's what they're saying, Pete.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, Michael Saylor's been able to do that successfully, but GameStop? Good luck with that. As whatchamacallit, I guess, Morgan Freeman, Pete, in Batman, when the guy says, hey, I'm going to try to blackmail Bruce Wayne because I know he's really the Batman. And he says, so that's your plan, to blackmail a guy who goes out and beats up criminals at night? He says, good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm with you on this whole thing, John. I mean, I don't really quite fully understand why this is something that needs to be done the way it is. And if I'm a borrower, if 1.75 billion in one case, and earlier, John, they raised 1.3 billion. So they've raised a heck of a lot of money there. And I don't know. I look at the company. They've got interesting levels of debt and everything else. And, we all know the story of this whole thing going back to, 2020 and 2021 and all the rest of it and the ups and downs. But it's interesting as heck that they're out there in the open doing what they're doing and trying to get this accomplished. I don't know. I think I have a lot more faith in Michael Saylor than I do the GameStop crew as far as going through this whole thing. So this one for me, I like in Shark Tank, John. I'm not going to be doing this one. That's for sure. I don't like anything about this trade, and I'm not really a guy who's hopped up on GameStop either.
No, I would say too many companies are going to try to do what Saylor did, Pete. Yeah. And it's one thing if you've got the money, or if they're issuing shares. They're not just going to the bank and borrowing the money. They're issuing shares, which is diluting the present shareholders.
Yeah, great.
Anyway, well, let's take a look at today's video of the day, Pete, because of course we're going to put up something about the Indiana Pacers and OKC because, hey, now it's 2-1.
It's getting interesting.
The Pacers really stuck it to them hard in the second half yesterday, Pete. Yeah. So let's take a look.
Tyrese is not even the main ball handler at this point in time because the defense has been so aggressive.
Nembhard steps back, three-pointer. Got it! Got it! From Nembhard. It's a three-point game with 1:59 remaining.
The Barnes unbelievable. I mean, the guy had like the game of his life right when they need it, right? I mean,
big threes in his 3 playoff careers.
There's a lot to be said for that crowd too, John. The crowd noise, that place. I know Oklahoma City's got a great crowd too. Indiana's got them. Let's be honest. I mean, they are rabid. They are aggressive. They're excited. A lot of stars were there still, even though it's just Indiana or whatever. But, some of the legends of basketball were there at the event or whatever as well. But everywhere you look, I mean, that Siakam, John, 21 points. I look at Halliburton gets 22 points. Mathurin gets 27 points. I mean, unbelievable. And Halliburton, by the way, had a triple-double. So everywhere you look, this was an amazing game. Totally unexpected for me. And I will say this might give them the ratings that they need, John. They needed for Indiana to win, back in Indiana. So it was 1-1. Now they're up 2-1. Even if they lose the next one, I think that keeps people's attention. If they win the next one, it goes back to OKC and things get pretty damn interesting. And my guess would be the ratings start to shoot to the upside, John, in a big way. So I think that this was a great one for Indiana to win. They outplayed them. And it was really all in the fourth quarter where they just absolutely buried them. I think in the fourth quarter, John, they outscored OKC 32-18. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of the butt kicking they gave them in the second half, but particularly in the fourth quarter. They just started running up and down and shooting and not missing. I mean, it was amazing to watch and impressive. And maybe this helps Silver out a little bit, John, as far as these crap ratings that they're getting for the finals. This might boost it up a little bit.
Well, they need everything they can get in that regard, Pete, because as you've detailed, the networks that are carrying this cannot be too pleased with the ratings that they're getting, even if they were up 3% into the playoffs here, Pete, into these finals. I don't know that the finals are going to be one to write home about. All right. What else do you got?
We got one more, and it's kind of a fun one, just having fun with it. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, John, but, right now in the NFL, this is the storyline, Aaron Rodgers. He really is. I mean, a 41-year-old quarterback who still wants to play, 4-time MVP. He's getting $14 million. I didn't say 44. I said $14 million to play this year. So he's playing for the love of the game. There's no doubt from his perspective, right? This is a $50 million type quarterback, and he's getting $14 million. But he wants to play. And I think he selected the right team. All those things go along. But how about this, John, that nobody talks about until today? Did you know Aaron Rodgers happens to be wearing a little wedding ring on his left finger of late? And it turns out that this guy's been married for the last few months, and everybody's wondering, well, when were you going to tell anybody about this? I mean, he is a very, very public figure as a quarterback. I mean, let's be honest. He's
on Pat McAfee's show and all that kind of stuff.
He's got
His
all
own
the opportunities.
podcast.
Yeah, all the opportunities in the world to go on there and go, yeah, by the way, I got married. He's got that way of talking. But John, the more I peel back the onion, the more I'm looking at, I think that this guy could have an unreal year. You and I talked about it yesterday. The guy still threw for 4,000 yards. He still had something like whatever it was, 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions and all the rest of it. But I'm telling you, the more I look at this and I see DK Metcalf, John, and then I see that tight end who's a big son of a gun, Freiermuth, who's 6'5", 260, Penn State tight end. Penn State rolls out tight ends. I mean, they just put them into the NFL, and this kid is a baller. But I'm really waiting for the fact that they've got a good running game, and I want to see this kid, Caleb Johnson, who only averaged 6.4 yards a carry last year in Iowa, going up against all the Big Ten teams. I'll tell you what, he's a heck of a running back. They already had a heck of a running back. So I think that they are really loaded, really, really loaded. They could make a good run. It's a tough as hell division, but these guys could run that division, John. They won 10 games last year with, who was it, quarterback? The little fella from Denver or whatever?
Wilson.
Russell Wilson. He's gone.
And Fields. Don't forget Fields. Well, I think you're right. And let's not forget also that TJ Watt, the brother of JJ, he's held out of the OTAs, and they could fine him $100,000, but he doesn't really care. I mean, Pete, he got a contract extension in, it was either 2020 or 2021 for $112 million, and that made him the highest paid defensive player. That's not, of course, a one-year salary, but it was an extension, a multi-year extension. Now, that 28 million pales compared to what he thinks he can get. And I think he's right, because I think Pittsburgh will pay this guy because he produces. And the contract might again be the highest paid defensive player contract. They're talking about 40 million, Pete, for a defensive player. And all he does is produce those. So if you're somebody, what did that one guy say, Pete, the famous sports quote, "It ain't bragging if you can do it." Well, this guy does it, and he does it every week. And he plays dinged up a little from time to time, but even on the games where he is dinged up, he seems to always pull a sack down or get a strip or whatever. And so I think TJ is also very integral into this Pittsburgh Steelers potential run this year.
And he's a baller. And the last thing I would say about the whole thing is you're right. And I think that he is a Pittsburgh Steeler. I mean, there's certain guys that just don't belong anywhere else. This guy belongs in Pittsburgh. He wants to sign there. He'll get a great contract, and he will sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that defense will just be as good, but maybe even better this year than last year, because they did it in the draft as well. We talked about that yesterday. They've done a lot of things to make that defense even better. Even though they're already outstanding, they're going to be even better this year.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, remember, if you want to see that guy on the webinar tonight, 4 p.m. Eastern time, just go and register, marketrebellion.com/register, and we'll send you a copy of it as well. That's tonight, 4 p.m. Eastern. Pete, we're back on Monday. What time?
1 o'clock Eastern time. Giddy up.
See you then, folks.